On Friday, the 22nd of August, just last month, a 19-year-old girl named Dacara Thompson left her father's home at around 10 p.m, telling him she was just stepping out to get some gas and would be right back, but that would be the last time her family would ever see her. Later that night, Dakara's SUV was discovered abandoned on Jasmine Terrace, parked in front of a fire hydrant, and inside the vehicle was her purse with about $60 in cash, meaning she had left with only her cell phone and her key fob. So, after being reported missing by her family, the Prince George's County Police began investigating her disappearance, which eventually led them to uncover some surveillance footage from around 1:30 a.m, which showed a young woman believed to be Dacara stepping out of her vehicle, locking it and slowly walking away toward Riggs Road. But to make matters even more troubling, it was also discovered that her cell phone had been disabled shortly after that time, and there was also no activity on her bank accounts or social media, alluding to the fact that she could have been in serious danger. However, any hope that still remained would soon turn to heartbreak, as just 8 days on from her disappearance, the police would discover the lifeless body of a 19-year-old woman, which after examination was later confirmed to belong to Dacara. During a press conference, police would reveal that they had a person of interest named Hugo Hernandez-Mendez, who was subsequently charged for his involvement in the case, but investigations are still underway to uncover the truth. So, given this heartbreaking update to the case, it is no wonder that her family have been left devastated as they wait for further updates from the police, so they can finally understand what really happened to Dacara Thompson. Dacara Rose Thompson was born in the mid-2000s to her loving parents Daniel and Carmen Thompson in the state of Maryland, where she would grow up surrounded by 4 older siblings who looked out for her, whilst also allowing her to carve out her own unique personality within the household. Family members describe her as a spirited and determined young woman who, despite her tendency to be relatively introverted, still cared deeply about those closest to her, and often brought a sense of energy and brightness into their lives. By all accounts, Dakara's parents were deeply involved in her upbringing, and as she grew into her teenage years, their bond only strengthened. Carmen has spoken openly about her daughter's ambitions, revealing that Dacara had plans to join the Air Force after high school, and this aspiration reflected not only her drive and discipline, but also a desire to serve and create a meaningful future for herself. To her family, these plans symbolized her determination to set a strong foundation for adulthood, while also showing her seriousness about carving her own path. And so, by the summer of 2025, Dacara was continuing to pursue this dream as a now 19-year-old who was living with her father in Lanham, Maryland. She had reached a pivotal moment in her life, one where she was on the edge of independence, yet still firmly rooted in the support of her family. Those who knew her best say she balanced youthful ambition with a sense of responsibility, keeping close contact with her parents and siblings while also thinking ahead to what her next chapter might look like. Although much of her personal life, including details about her schooling, friendships, or work, has not been shared publicly, the image that emerges of what we do know is of a young woman in transition, stepping into adulthood, filled with plans and potential, and surrounded by people who loved her deeply. However, that bright future would come to a sudden and tragic halt, when, for reasons unknown, Dacara would mysteriously disappear on that fateful night in August. On Friday, the 22nd of August, the teenager left her father's home at around 10 p.m. after announcing that she would be stepping out for a brief period of time. Her exact plans that night are still unknown, but what we do know is that a short time later, she would send her father a text message explaining that she had purchased some gas for her car and would be returning home soon. However, little did her family know that this would be the final message Dacara would ever send. As the hours continued to pass by, with Dacara failing to return home as promised, her father began calling her cell phone, only for the calls to go unanswered. He followed up with text messages of his own, but those too went without a reply. At first, he assumed she had been delayed or distracted, but as the night wore on with no word, his concern began to grow. By the following morning, his worry deepened when Dacara's mother, Carmen, used a phone tracking feature to try and locate her daughter. The search led to a troubling discovery. Dacara's SUV, a 2013 pearl white Ford Edge, was sitting abandoned on Jasmine Terrace in Langley Park, just off of Riggs Road, several miles from her father's home. Inside the vehicle were many of her personal belongings, including her purse and about $60 in cash. But to make matters worse, her cell phone, which was showing as active just a few hours earlier, was now disconnected, which, as you can imagine, immediately raised red flags. So, as the hours eventually turned into days, with still no sign of Dacara, the Thompson family realized that the situation could be far worse than they had first thought. So, as their fears continued to grow, they made the agonizing decision to contact the local police to officially report their 19-year-old daughter as missing. On Saturday, the 23rd of August, the Prince George's County Police Department would receive a phone call from a family who were desperate to find their missing loved one who had disappeared just the night before. From the very beginning, investigators agreed to take the case seriously as they began gathering information from both parents. During these discussions, it was revealed that Dacara had sent her final text message at 11:58 p.m. the night before, where she explained how she had got gas for the car and was heading back soon. So, in response to learning this information, the police then began the painstaking process of reconstructing her final hours. The abandoned SUV became a central focus, and officers combed through the area surrounding Jasmine Terrace and Riggs Road, looking for any overlooked clues. However, to Carmen and Daniel's surprise, rather than sealing off the car as a crime scene and conducting a thorough inspection of the vehicle, the police instead instructed the family to drive the car back home, as they said it would get towed away if left unattended. So, against his better judgment, but doing as he was told, Daniel then drove the vehicle back to his home, potentially contaminating any evidence in the process. Detectives then reached out to local businesses, canvassed nearby neighborhoods, and spoke with residents in Langley Park, hoping someone had seen or heard something in those early morning hours. They also monitored her financial accounts, phone records, and social media activity, all of which showed a sudden and complete silence after the night she vanished. And for someone of her age, this absence of a digital footprint was especially alarming. Meanwhile, her family and community began organizing vigils and search efforts, gathering at the very location where her SUV had been found. Flyers were distributed, prayers were said, and loved ones pleaded for anyone with information to come forward. To those who knew her, it seemed impossible that Dacara would simply walk away from her life without explanation. But as the days continued to pass by, frustration mounted. Investigators continued their work, but leads were scarce. Publicly, the police department offered few details, careful not to compromise the investigation. Privately, though, family members began to fear the worst, struggling with the uncertainty of not knowing where their daughter was, or what had happened to her after she left that car. By late August, the silence surrounding the case was becoming unbearable. There were still no confirmed sightings of Dacara and no activity on her account, so for investigators, the lack of evidence only deepened the mystery, forcing them to consider chilling possibilities. However, just as hope began to waver, a new development would soon come to light that promised to reshape the timeline of events and raise even more questions about what really happened to Dacara Thompson that night. And expanding their search efforts across nearby neighborhoods. However, despite the mounting pressure and growing public awareness, no new evidence would surface to explain where Dacara had gone after she stepped away from her car that night. However, just as the community began to worry that her case was turning cold, there would be one last twist to the tale that would dramatically change the tone of her story. On Sunday, the 31st of August, a major development would shake the investigation when authorities discovered the body of a young woman off the eastbound lanes of Route 50 in Anne Arundel County. The recovery was made by Maryland State Police troopers who had been dispatched to the area following a call about a disabled vehicle. However, upon arriving, they would uncover something far more troubling. An unresponsive female lying in the grassy area just beyond the highway. In the hours that followed, investigators quickly confirmed that the discovery was being examined in direct connection with the disappearance of 19-year-old Dacara Thompson. But while the process of formal identification was still underway at the time, the proximity of the find and the circumstances surrounding it immediately cast a heavy shadow over the case. What made the development even more significant was the confirmation from detectives that the body had not simply been abandoned there at random. Instead, they now believed that Dacara had entered the vehicle of a 35-year-old man named Hugo Hernandez-Mendez in the early hours of August 23rd, only a short distance from where her own car was later found in Hyattsville. Using surveillance footage and investigative leads, officers tracked Hernandez's movements back to his home on Kimber Ridge Drive in Bowie. According to the police, it was here that the crime is believed to have occurred, in his very own bedroom, before the body was ultimately transported to the remote location off Route 50. Search warrants executed days later would provide investigators with enough evidence to pursue murder charges against Hugo, which was officially announced on the 5th of September. So, as you can imagine, the news has been devastating for Dakara's loved ones, as well as the wider community, as up until this moment there had remained a fragile hope that she might somehow return home safely, especially since her vehicle was discovered with no immediate signs of a struggle. However, now with the recovery of her remains and the chilling details surrounding her last known movements, that hope has been met with the crushing weight of reality. Community members have responded with an outpouring of grief, expressing sorrow and solidarity online, while also demanding answers as to how such a tragedy could have occurred. And though charges have been brought, investigators emphasize that much work still lies ahead as they piece together the full truth of what happened to Dacara. Provided a grim but crucial breakthrough, it does not erase the many questions that still remain unanswered. Why did she enter Hernandez's vehicle? What exactly transpired inside his home? And could there be more to the story than what is currently known? But for now, her family continues to endure the unimaginable pain of loss, even as they stand determined in their pursuit of justice for their daughter. And though the community has rallied behind them, the haunting reality lingers on, that a young woman full of promise and devoted to serving others had her life cut short in the most tragic of circumstances. But with this thought in mind, I also wanted to take this opportunity to raise the profile of another case that occurred in Prince George's County just a few years ago, because just like Dacara, they too were a young black woman with their whole lives ahead of them before they would mysteriously disappear. However, unlike Dakara's story, they still remain missing to this day, with the investigations surrounding their case sitting cold as their families continue to wait for justice. But before I dive into the similarities, for those of you who are not familiar with Janaya's case, I'll just provide a brief overview of the key details to give you some context. So, on Monday the 24th of April in 2023, an 18-year-old student named Janaya Thompson was witnessed walking away from her high school after she had explained to her older brother how she was leaving early to take care of something. However, to this day, she has still not been seen or heard from since. Later that day, Janaya was then captured by security cameras at the Naylor Road metro station in Temple Hills, Maryland, but it is unknown if she was able to board a train or who she was with at the time. So, after her family started to notice her absence, they reported her missing to the Prince George's County Police Department with the hope that they would be able to find her. But despite their desperate pleas for help, the police explained that due to Janaya's age at the time of her disappearance, she was technically an adult, and therefore free to run away if she wanted to. So, with little help from the authorities, Janaya's family then turned to the media in an attempt to raise some more awareness of the case by informing the public about her disappearance themselves. However, after 2 years of searching, the now 21-year-old is still nowhere to be seen, as her family is still waiting for any official conclusions from law enforcement about what truly happened that night. But one thing that is for certain is that when you compare this case to Dakara's, the situation feels hauntingly familiar, as there are some glaring similarities that, in my opinion, are certainly worth exploring. Firstly, both Dacara and Janaya were young black women, 19 and 18 years old respectively, at the time of their disappearances. Both were deeply connected to their families, with strong support systems that relied on consistent communication. Neither had any history of disappearing or cutting off contact, which makes their sudden vanishings all the more alarming. And while the circumstances differ in some ways, there are several striking parallels that cannot be ignored. For one, both young women disappeared from Prince George's County, Maryland, within about 2 years of each other. Janiyah in April 2023 and Dacara in August of 2025. Both were last seen in public areas after being captured on surveillance cameras. Janiyah near the Naylor Road metro station in Temple Hills, and Dacara leaving her SUV in Hyattsville. In each instance, their last known movements were captured or tracked to some extent, but after that, the trail went cold almost immediately. The nature of their disappearances also shares similarities. Both cases involved sudden vanishings without any signs of voluntary departure. Dacara messaged her father to say that she would be home soon, while Janiyah left abruptly after telling her family member she was going to take care of something. In both cases, the suddenness of their disappearance made it clear to their families that something was seriously wrong. Concerns have also been raised regarding how these cases were handled by law enforcement in the critical early days. Both families have publicly stated the emotional strain of waiting for updates, describing slow-moving investigations and limited information about the progress being made. And despite the families' pleas, concrete leads have been scarce, leaving both communities on edge. Another link between the cases lies in the broader social context, as both Dacara and Janiyah's families have faced challenges in maintaining public attention for their cases, reflecting a troubling pattern seen in many missing person investigations involving young black women. The disparity in media coverage and investigative transparency has compounded the uncertainty, highlighting systematic issues that families often have to navigate while desperately searching for answers. Even their shared surname, Thompson, adds an eerie layer of similarity, and when placed side by side, their cases point to the concerning reality of young black women disappearing under mysterious circumstances, with families often left to contend with limited information and the emotional burden of waiting for answers that may never come. Behind both Dacara and Janiyah are families who are grieving and tirelessly searching for their loved ones. So I feel strongly that these stories must be highlighted and remembered to ensure that answers are provided and justice is eventually served. On that note, I think I'll leave this video here, but as always, please leave your thoughts and condolences in the comments down below, as I'm sure their families would appreciate the support. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for updates on these stories.
Good morning. First, I'd like to thank members of the media for showing sensitivity during the reporting of this case. We know there were questions that you had and questions that we couldn't answer due to the investigation being ongoing. On September 5th, detectives from the Prince George's County Police Department's Homicide Division developed probable cause to present charges for the murder of Dacara Thompson. This morning, criminal charges were issued for first-degree and second-degree murder. The facts of the case: 19-year-old Dacara Thompson was last seen on August the 22nd. She was reported missing the very next day. On August the 21st, her family located the vehicle in the area of Jasmine Terrace in Hyattsville, Maryland. On August 31st, what we believe to have been Dakara's body was located by the Maryland State Police Department in the area of eastbound Route 50 at Route 97. On August 23rd, in the area of University Boulevard in Hyattsville, Maryland, a short distance from her vehicle, at approximately 3 a.m. For reasons still under investigation, it appears that Dacara willfully entered a vehicle being driven by Hugo Hernandez-Mendez, 35-year-old male, out of Bowie, Maryland.
So what was she doing? Flipping?
Through investigative techniques and video review, detectives were able to track the vehicle's movement to an address on Kimber Ridge Drive in Bowie, Maryland. On September 4th, several search warrants were obtained and executed pertaining to this case, which led detectives to obtain enough probable cause to take Hugo Hernandez-Mendez into custody and present him to the court commissioner for the murder of Dacara Thompson. We believe the murder occurred in the home on Cambridge Drive in Hernandez's bedroom. Her body was taken to the location that it was recovered at by Hernandez. At this time, there are no additional suspects. However, this investigation is ongoing. Our thoughts and prayers are with her family during this time. Detectives from the Prince George's County Police Department's Missing Persons Unit were quickly joined by the Prince George's County Police Department Homicide Unit, along with our law enforcement partners from Maryland State Police and the City of Bowie, who worked jointly and tirelessly to determine the facts of this case. Because the pre-existing relationships between our agencies, we are where we are. There's still a lot of investigative work to be done in this case, and we're asking members of the community or anyone that may have information about this case to contact us at 1-866-411-TIPS.
No disrespect to the family or nothing like that, but what was she doing out there? She parked the car. We seen her park her car. And then she dipped off, went around the corner. What was she out there? Prostituting, ladies and gentlemen. Trying to make a couple of hours. She did it before. This wasn't her first time doing it. How she ended up in the car with a Mexicano, 35 years old, in his house.
Throughout this case, members at the highest level of our law enforcement agencies were kept abreast of every development, and cooperative decisions were made jointly. I have no words to express my appreciation for the Superintendent of the Maryland State Police, Colonel Butler, and Bowie's City Police Chief, Dwayne Preston, for their involvement. In addition to law enforcement involvement in this case, the highest level of our governments were kept abreast of this matter. This included daily briefings with Deputy Chief Administrative Officer Melvin Powell and County Executive Aisha Braveboy, both of whom provided unwavering support for our teams who were conducting this investigation.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you to all of our public safety partners who are here with us today. But more importantly, I want to thank this community. When you found out that Dacara Thompson was missing, you answered the calls of her parents and her family to help find her, to locate her, because she means so much to so many. And so it is tough that we're at this point where the search is over and justice begins. I want to thank our superintendent. I want to thank also Chief Preston, the men and women of the Prince George's County Police Department and its homicide unit, as I have repeated numerous times as state's attorney, the best of the best. I want to thank you for closing this case quickly. And now we will hand this case over to our state's attorney, Tara Jackson, to seek justice. But I did want to reflect on Dacara Thompson, young 19-year-old graduate of St. Charles High School in Charles County. She was living with her father, and part of the reason she lived here is because she was working for nonprofit Prince George's as part of her service year option that she decided to participate in, and that this activity is sponsored by our Governor Wes Moore. So this is a young woman who dedicated part of her young life to serving others, And I want that to ring home to all of you, that this is a good young woman who wanted to do good for her community. And now her community will stand behind her family as we seek justice for her. I will now turn the mic over to our Superintendent
Stop
Butler.
tiptoeing through the tulips and give us the, you know what I mean? What was
On
she out
behalf
there
of
doing?
Governor Westmore and the entire Maryland Department of State Police family, I'd like to extend my deepest condolences to the family and friends of Ms. Dacara Thompson, a young life that was taken far too soon. Shortly before 5 p.m. on August 31st, troopers from the Maryland State Police Annapolis Barrack were dispatched to the area of U.S. Route 50 between Maryland Route 424 and Interstate 97 in Anne Arundel County for the report of a disabled vehicle. Upon arrival, troopers observed a female lying unresponsive in a grassy area off the highway. Information obtained indicated the disabled vehicle was unrelated to the investigation that we have embarked upon.
Semen in the body.
Investigators from the Maryland State Police Criminal Enforcement Division South Region responded to the scene, along with State Police crime scene technicians from our Forensic Services Division. They processed the scene. Shortly after, they contacted the Prince George's County Police. The Maryland State Police and the Prince George's County Police have been conducting a joint investigation into the death of Ms. Dacara Jackson. As additional information becomes available, I am sure the Prince George's County and the Maryland State Police will share that information with you. The circumstances surrounding her death still remain under investigation, so we will continue to answer those questions that we think the community and the family want those answers. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Chief Dwayne Preston from the city of Bowie.
Man, they tap. Telling people tulips.
Good morning. On behalf of our city manager, Alfred D. Lott, I want to express my condolences to the family of Dacara Thompson. Members of the Bowie Police Department have worked in great collaboration with Prince George's County Police Department and the Maryland State Police. And unfortunately, the evidence led to this incident culminating in the city of Bowie. We continue to work in partnership with our strong partnerships with our law enforcement agencies, and it's our prayer that as this case matriculates through the criminal justice system, that justice will be served for the family. Thank you.
I haven't purchased ammo in a very long time. For my 40, I've never purchased it. It was all beefy. For my 9mm, the last time I purchased it, this is going to sound stupid, when Obama was president, there was time that he was going to ban weapons, so everybody was going crazy buying ammo. Right. I bought 9mm in bulk. That time was literally the last time I purchased ammunition.
What do you get from more?
From more, I think, which means, am I talking like 10 years?
What brand do they use? What brand is it?
I mean, they use Federal.
Is there anything else you want to tell us? Thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate it. And we'll let them know that you're helping us out. I appreciate that. I'm going to get that picture. What about the rest of it? Anything else you can talk about?
I don't know shit about talking. That bitch was up to so. Okay. Okay. Melissa, she was, Erica referred to her as a good friend of mine. She was a good friend of mine. She's a chick I would pick up. And sometimes, most of the time, I wouldn't do anything with her. I would pick her up and I would take her to Burger King, buy her food. Sometimes I would take her to Taco Bell and get drive-through and buy her. That's all these chicks want, just food. So I'm not joking. Most of the time, I never did anything with her.
The down and munchies, okay.
She likes to get a lot of munchies.
Well, is there anybody else that you picked up?
That I picked up? Una que se llamaba Dacara.
Her name was.
But Karen. Okay. But I only picked her up once and never again.
Because it actually turns out to be
Ana Karen Herrera. Sí, I picked her up that one time and one time only porque so I was like, no, ¿qué haces? No, and I told her my coach, no, pero no me cogiste calor, y le dije, tú.
I told her.
No, pues de vez en cuando muere algo.
And she said, no, I want to move something.
She started mentioning
Daddy, can you buy me? No way I'm going to do that. No, Daddy, go across and bring me too.
one time, ese mando vuelto llaves. I'm like, oh, ¿qué haces allá? No, porque mi jale, no tengo mi jale. After that, right now, no thanks, bitch.
Keep up with my work.
Anyways, when Karen was in my truck, she dropped her fucking phone, and she said, "Can you call my phone?" I'm like, so she called it. Her phone was vibrating. That's how my phone got saved in her phone. Okay. Well, after that, she started texting me like, "Hey, man, how are you?" Hey, blah, blah, blah. Like, I started ignoring her, and then like she started getting like irritated. Yeah. So I literally blocked her. Eso lo levanté una vez, that's like
Chick me up one
is there
time
any
for
other
coffee.
time that your phone number is going to be somewhere where it shouldn't be?
No. As far as that's not good. No. That's it. So we're pulling into the greenhouse. I'm sitting. You know what? Yeah, I was speaking to Liz. I thought pinche Erica. Sería, hey, that is her. Melissa de la Plata. Erica!
There's freaking Erica.
Erica kept going with some other dude that she was. Se mete Melissa.
Melissa goes in.
That house has like rules, like they're in and out like in 5 seconds. Se mete, sale.
She goes in and comes out.
This is Melissa. I'm like, hey, güey, levántate, güey.
Hey, dude, wake up, dude.
Güey, levántate. Dude, get up.
Dude, get up.
Dude, get up. After a while, I'm like, okay, I'm just driving around like a dumbass. What the fuck? And she got up. Complete deep fucking sleep. Driving around, I'm like, fuck, man, what am I doing with this bitch? I drove to the medical center. There's cameras to see my truck. I was just gonna dump her there and leave her in the yard. And I'm like, fuck, man, what the fuck do I do with this fucking shit?
With this fucking
So
bitch.
I'm driving, and I'm driving. Yeah, you guys know what's up. She pissed me off. No, she didn't piss me off. She was knocked out. I was like, dude, this bitch is passed out here. See, I don't care.
If I dump her, they're gonna say I did something to her.
Just dump her and drive away. No, but then Erica's on me with her. I'm like, fuck, dude. So I get on 35 North and I'm driving. And I'm just driving. And then I'm like, fuck, dude, I should have fucking exited a long time ago. I exited at 18. At the rest area.
Where the rest area is at?
I go on 83 North.
By where?
I'm just I go under 255 and make a left. There's a pad right there where law enforcement sits up. I just sit up there, see if they're outside. I turn around. I look in the hotel.
The moment that time for me to turn around.
Yeah. Done. You turn around.
That's it.
Hey, with me, dude.
Where the fuck are we? Fucking stop.
Dude, I don't know.
Fucking stop.
That's it.
I have to go.
So I met them Jeffries.
So I go in,
Station.
and you know that.
Did she try to assault you? No. Se salió.
She got out.
And when it happened, you guys already know the rest of it.
You didn't wake up that day with that phone.
I did not plan it.
I know.
I did not plan it.
You know what, dude? You know what? I knew that shit happened spur of the moment. I knew it's something.